Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. This is Christopher Aaron. It is time to have an update on the other precious metal. Not only gold and silver, but what about the other precious metals such as palladium? Not talked about a lot, but I think there is a good profit opportunity, a good trade opportunity in the palladium market right now. I want to make sure that you are aware of it. The basic reason for this is because silver is in breakout blue sky mode. Silver crossed above $60 today for the first time ever. Remember, in the last video I produced, I said, I think a lot of people are underestimating this breakout. There's some people thinking silver might only go to 65 or 70. I think silver is going much, much higher than that. And what you've got to realize, if you're not paying attention to the other aspects of the precious metals market, there are opportunities beyond just silver itself. Palladium is a dual industrial precious metal similar to silver in that respect, and there is an opportunity here if you're paying attention. That's what we will talk about here. Make sure to hit the red subscribe button and the bell icon because you've got to be notified when these videos come out. If you don't turn on the notifications and subscribe, you will not know and you will miss this. If you have 1 second to give it a thumbs up, I very much appreciate it. Thank you for that. Last but not least, you've got to follow us on X for free at iGlobalGold because some weeks I don't have a chance to post YouTube videos, but I almost always post quicker updates on X throughout the week. Make sure to follow us there. Our legal disclaimer. And then here we go. This is the long-term look at palladium. We're going to look at the long-term and then the short run, and then we're going to talk about the specific trade that I see setting up here. Just go back here and notice how the peaks, a lot of the peaks for palladium in the late 90s, this zone, call it, just under 1,000. And then these subsequent reaction peaks here, 2010, clearly topping out in this level below 1,000, slightly below 900. Again here, just above 900. Functionally speaking, we're talking about this major resistance zone below 1,000 here, this black double line. And then you can notice the dramatic breakout in 2016, palladium going from under 1,000 to over 3,000 briefly, just a couple years later. And then what? Big dramatic decline into the lows of 2023, 2024, 2025, and now starting to round up here, right? Starting to round up. And remember, we already have the valid leading signal from gold and now from silver. That this sector, that the more speculative or industrial parts of this sector should be having a bid coming into them. So let's zoom in here on the last 5 years or so. I want to tell you what I see shaping up on the chart for palladium over the coming months. First of all, notice the nice 5-year downward trend break here, slightly expanding zone of resistance, broken out. Notice the retest here. Sometimes retests do not come all the way down to the actual line in question, but nice downward trend break with the exception of that one crazy false move back here in early 2022. Nice downward trend break, holding above, and then look at what we've seen here just over the last couple of months. A couple months ago, September, breaking this base here, let's call this a 2-year base below the 1335 level. 2-year base shot up to what? Test the 3-year base going back to 2023. Notice this resistance here at 1645. Tested that, came back down, retested the 2-year base, and now what? It's rounding back up again. I mean, this is a really good looking chart. I mean, it's almost textbook looking. And what we have now for palladium is so far we have broken above this 2-year base right here, which has an amplitude of $500 precisely. You can derive an amplitude from a basing pattern by measuring you can derive a target for a basing pattern by measuring the amplitude here, which in this case is 500. 500 added on to the breakout point, 1335, yields an official target right here. It's right here where the green box is, 1,835. So 1,835 is now a valid target. That is $335 above where the price is right now. Price is just getting close to 1,500 per ounce in the spot market. Okay, that's something. But it's more this. It's more if you look, if we achieve 1835 here on palladium, what's going to happen is that is going to, in fact, trigger a break of this much larger base, going back all the way here from early 2023 through upcoming 2025. We'll call that a 3-year base. So this is like the domino chain. You know, this is when one target triggers another target, which sometimes can even trigger another target after that. It's one pattern sets in motion another pattern in that domino kind of fashion. And when we look at the pattern that the current target projects should be triggered here, this is going to be an $810 amplitude, and that would be added on to the breakout point right here, 1645. 1645 plus 810 will yield a second target of 2,455 right up here. Now notice that 2,455, that's the target. The level that you see right here, these are the fib extensions of that 810 base. So notice the 100% extension functionally gets us to our target. That's just simply another way of saying 810 added onto the breakout point gets us the target. But notice here that there's another line. Notice this dashed line right here. It's difficult to see, but just above 2,400 is actually the 61.8% Fibonacci retracement. Extensions are always extensions of a basing pattern. Retracements go back to the last major high, in this case the all-time high for palladium at 3,400, down to the major low here at 825. The 61.8% Fibonacci retracement of that entire decline happens to basically match exactly with the target, the amplitude target of this 3-year base, the 810 added onto 1645. So we've got a domino chain set up here. We've already broken a major downtrend. We've got one base that's triggered. Second base, I mean, it already tested that a few months ago. It tested that right here, 1645, and it's winding up to test it again. And we have the leading signal of silver, which is in blue sky territory now, and that's putting that bid into palladium. Now, ways to play this. You could go out and buy physical palladium coins or bars. I think nothing wrong with that in this environment. To get to my target will be a 63% gain from 1,500 to 2,455. It'll be a 63% gain. Nothing wrong with that. I would consider physical palladium if you want, a diversifier away from physical silver, let's say. I don't think that physical palladium, however, has as much upside as physical silver, because remember, physical palladium already has broken its 1980 peak. Silver is just in that breakout process now. So, unless you were doing it with a small amount, I think the better play is still physical silver. So that said, you could do a little bit of physical palladium for a 63% gain. You got to remember, you're going to be paying the premiums each way. So I don't think physical coins or bars are a good vehicle for a trade. They're better for very long-term holdings. For a trade, there's also an ETF that is backed by physical palladium. The ticker is PALL, the PAL fund, basically. And that one, each share of that fund is backed by palladium, and each share is priced slightly below 1/10 of an ounce of palladium. So right now those shares are trading at about 1/36 per share. Physical palladium is at about 1,500 per share, so a little less than 1/10 per ounce. So you could go with that if you want to try to achieve the 63% gain here, let's say over the course of the next 6 to 12 months. That would be good. That would be good. Don't get me wrong. But I want to remind you of the power of the options when there are specific patterns like this that have a high probability of playing out, like we saw with IM Gold and First Majestic and a number of others late this fall. The power of an options trade here with Palladium is that I expect this move, when it breaks 1645 here, 1645 is this base. When it breaks 1645, I think that the move higher to this second target will roughly mirror this decline here back from 2022. This decline. And so you can notice that in 5 months, Palladium went from 2,400 down to 1,335. Almost $1,000 lower in 5 months. This was October of 2022 down to the low in March of 2023. So if I'm right about the timing, that the breakout that is now underway and then the second breakout that's going to happen here, if I'm right that it mirrors this approximately on the opposite side here, that's where the options contracts would pay a lot more than the 63% here on the underlying commodity. And so I just want to remind you, this is the kind of thing that we're talking about. Remember, the IM Gold was 204% in 1 month. The first Majestic was 59% in 1 week, right? So that's what can happen when you get a base that breaks out and it moves rapidly, which is how I expect this to happen, basically in reverse order. So if you're with me on all of this, if you see the pattern that's developing here on Palladium, if you realize that there are higher targets for Palladium itself, but you would like to try to achieve some of the outstanding gains, not just the 63% gain, but some of the multi-100% gains that we have had, because remember, these are our last 2 options trades, then this is where we get into how to trade Palladium with the options market, and that is reserved for our premium Precious Metals Intelligence Plus subscribers. We made enough on our last 2 trades to pay for 10 years worth of this service. Think about whether you are being penny wise and pound foolish by ignoring the incredible trading opportunities that I have just showed you that we can clearly see in front of us, because Palladium is one of the lagging parts of this market, and we have to pay attention to the laggards now because they stand the best chance of these catch-up opportunities. So if you would like to join us for these types of gains as a potential, the service for you is called Precious Metals Intelligence Plus. There it is right there, and that includes our specific Palladium trade, as well as when we close that trade. I'm not just going to leave you guessing as to when we close that trade. Remember, you receive weekly members-only videos just like this covering physical gold, physical silver, the mining sector, Palladium, the stock market, Bitcoin, flash updates right to your inbox. It doesn't end. That's what you get in Precious Metals Intelligence Plus. You cannot afford to be without it. It's silly. It's silly to be without it. At this stage in the precious metals market, it's just, you're doing yourself a disservice going it alone. For higher net worth investors, the service for you is called Elite Private Placements. And that is where you receive free warrants With every buy and sell in the individual mining companies, you get free warrants, you get shares at a discount at more favorable terms for more upside potential, nearly twice as much upside potential. And remember, you get a free subscription to join us in Precious Metals Intelligence Plus for that Palladium trade if you join us in the Elite service. Our next private placement will be coming within the next 1 to 2 weeks. So you want to get signed up before then to secure your allocation. If you would like to sit down with myself and discuss your unique situation in the precious metals or your wider investments, know that you can reach me on the consultations tab on our website. You could just check my available schedule, book a time. I call you then, and we dedicate 30 or 60 minutes to discussing everything that is going on inside and outside of your precious metals and overall portfolio from an independent standpoint. Think about the palladium trade. Do you want to take it with physical metal, or do you want to join us to try to achieve several hundred percentage points in the options trade?